Senator Claire McCaskill, in your book, Plenty Ladylike, you recount your rise from Jackson County prosecutor to the first female senator from the state of Missouri. What attribute do you think propelled you in your political ascension?
Well, really what this book is hopefully going to do is reassure everyone about how ladylike ambition is. I was really ambitious. I wanted it. I was focused. I had a goal. And so I started working towards that goal when I was very young and was constantly maneuvering around obstacles. As if you read the book, you realize I maneuvered around some pretty serious obstacles. But it was, in fact, just a driving ambition.
In the book, you talk about a lot of those obstacles, and one of them is raising a family while pursuing a political career. But in your case, actually, it seems as though most of the roadblocks came from your husband's businesses or planes. It seems as though you raised your family is pretty well adjusted.
Yeah, no, I tell women this all the time. You can have a high-profile, stressful career and raise children. You have to prioritize. But in politics, if you're a woman and your husband is not a librarian or a teacher, then his business all of a sudden becomes fair game. And I tease my Republican friends saying my husband started with nothing, created thousands of jobs and great wealth. He is a poster child for the Republican Party, except he's married to me, which makes him a tax-cheating SOB. If he weren't married to me, in fact, a lot of them he helped them at times in their career. So your husbands become fair game if, in fact, you're a woman running for office, especially big offices.
All right, let's talk about help and political help. You were one of the first senators, first politicians, and certainly one of the first female politicians to back President Barack Obama in 2008. But in your 2012 election versus Todd Akin, he didn't back you, or at least didn't give you money from the Democratic Party because he didn't think he could win in Missouri. Can you talk about political paybacks in America right now?
Well, I mean, it was hard for me and hurtful because I had, they were going to put field campaigns in all the campaigns where the president was going to campaign. And that was not Missouri. And here I was, you know, targeted as one of the most vulnerable senators. They were coming after me. Millions of dollars were being spent against me, even in the run-up to the election. And the notion they weren't going to be in Missouri felt like they were abandoning me. But when I was confronted with the facts, which is, we can't win in Missouri, Claire, I understood. It was a little hurtful, but I would have made the same decision that they made if I'd been in their shoes.
Luckily, you were saved by the asinine remarks of your opponent, Todd Akin, who discussed legitimate rape. Do you regret the fact that that election, to a certain extent, was won because of those stupid remarks as opposed to any real conversation about the issues or your visions?
Well, I think there were conversations about the issues. Understand that Todd Akin was a principled man who believed deeply. This isn't somebody who was playing to the right wing of his party. This is somebody who had a long history of very, very conservative, religiously based positions. And that's what he campaigned on. And there were a lot of issues he campaigned on. That, you know, school loans were a form of socialism, doing away with the school lunch program, that government shouldn't be doing that. He was a purist in a very, very right-wing way. So I would argue that there wasn't any discussion of issues. Now, admittedly, what he said about legitimate rape dominated at that point. But up until that point, the reason he was elected in his primary is we helped point out to the Republican voters just how conservative he really was.
And let's stay in the state of Missouri because there's a lot going on right now. It's been a year since the Michael Brown shooting, and we're seeing problems in the streets once again in Ferguson. In the book, you said you've been working to reform that situation. So what's really going on there, and why haven't things ameliorated? Why aren't they better right now?
They are better. You know, there is some reality of some problems this week on the anniversary, but it was mostly around the edges and I believe blown out of proportion by the media. The vast majority of the protests were peaceful. We have now more African Americans on the Ferguson City Council. We have an African American leading the Ferguson Police Department. We have job training going on that the community has come together, including a lot of good corporate leaders in St. Louis, working on more job opportunities. I've got a piece of legislation that will reform the federal programs that provide military equipment. to local police departments that's endorsed both by the Urban League and by the Tactical Police Officers Association and the NAACP. So we are making progress, but a few outliers, gunfire on the perimeter very late at night after all the peaceful protesters had gone home, and police responded to that, and of course then I think, to some extent, has gotten blown out of proportion. Things are quiet at home. Some tenseness, but quiet.
All right, let's take it back to the national stage, if you will. In the book, you talk about your friendship with Senator Chuck Schumer from right here in New York. He is opposing the Iran deal put forth by the president. And the president has really come out very hard against him and anyone who opposes that deal. A lot of people can say that Chuck Schumer is making a principled stance. Why do you think that the president is coming out so hard against your friend?
Well, I think that the president gets criticized for not working hard enough and passionately enough for things he believes in, that he's too cold, too distant, too removed. And then when he comes full bore, he's going to get criticized for going too far the other way. That's part of the reality of being president. I wish he hadn't been quite as intense. I don't think people who are opposing the deal are warmongers. I think it's a tough call. And when a decision is a tough call, there are really good arguments on both sides. Really good arguments on both sides. In that situation, I think maybe a lighter touch is better. I don't think that Chuck Schumer's opinion or the president's opinion is going to really move senators. I think most senators are making this call on an individual basis.
And your call right now is?
My call right now is I want to know what the countries that hold the money are going to do. We don't hold this money. It's about $60 billion. Clearly, they will get it if we do this deal. But we're going to put cement down their centrifuges at the same time. If we don't do this deal, will Turkey, will India, will South Korea, will Japan, will they abide by the secondary sanctions that Congress has imposed? Or will they begin to fray, and will they start doing business with Iran? The worst thing I think could happen would be for Iran to get this money anyway and be racing towards a nuclear weapon at the same time. And that's the analysis I'm going through now, reaching out to each one of those countries to try to get a straight answer.
All right, and then finally, let's talk about the current presidential campaign. In your book, you quote Harry Truman saying that saying what you think is usually not going to get you in trouble. Well, right now, saying what he thinks is getting Donald Trump votes. If you were to choose someone that you like from the Republican side, which Republican candidate would you say you would, if you had to vote for one of them, which one would it be?
That's a hard question. Probably John Kasich, because he expanded Medicaid, understood that sometimes you need to quit playing politics with an issue and look at what's best for people. I thought that was a courageous thing. The right wing hates him for it. It'll be interesting to see if he can navigate this primary having done it and done some other things that show he is not hard right. So he probably is one of the candidates that would have, I think, some appeal to the middle. But most of the candidates are trying so hard to go as quickly as they can, as hard as they can to the far right. I think that they're doing damage in the middle of this country. I happen to represent a state that has a lot of independent voters that go back and forth. Frankly, they're not really enamored with either party. They think a lot of the party politics is nonsense. They don't pay really close attention until the end, typically, but they will, and when that time comes, I have a hard time believing that they're going to accept a lot of these extreme views. You know, like Marco Rubio saying that we should do away with the rape and incest exception in abortion restrictions. You know, that's extreme in this country. And so those kinds of things are being said. They're getting ignored because Donald Trump is taking up all the oxygen right now, but hopefully the circus will leave town before too long and we can get to the serious and substantial candidates.
We're going to wait and see. Thanks a lot,
Thank
Senator.
you. It's great to be with you.
And thank you for watching The Street.